Hi everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel, Chasing Hobbies. My name is Alyssa and you're watching my very first video. As many of you know, there's a big trend going around on Instagram and YouTube with the tag starterpacknoai. So this, from what I understand, is kind of a retaliation against the AI generated version that's been circling around. We don't like the AI stuff, so it can go bye-bye and hopefully this tag will trump, ooh, overcome that tag and be the predominant one. If you're interested, I definitely recommend you go check out the tag on Instagram and check out some YouTube videos because I've seen some really great pieces and I just love watching people kind of depict themselves and add in the little bits of them to it. But I figured that this tag would be a great opportunity to start recording my art journey since it's a piece with a focus on the creator and tells you a bit about them, but from their point of view. Before I tell you a bit about myself, let's chat a bit about what's going on screen. At the start of the video, you got to see a quick glimpse of a few of my older sketches, which I will be making a sketchbook tour kind of video hopefully soon, and you'll get to see more of those. But recently, I changed the type of sketchbook I use from the Ohuhu marker sketchbook to the Strathmore 400 sketching series. Oh, there I am trying to shake out my hands and kind of get the tinglies to go away because of my bad carpal tunnel. And yeah, just sketching sometimes I gotta stop and give my hand a shake and then continue on. This change has been very freeing because I can just sketch and stop if I don't like what I'm doing. I don't feel the need to be very precious with my lines, and I can pretty much go, oh well, on to the next iteration and see if I can improve what I've just done. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. Overall, I did enjoy creating my little starter pack, but I did find it a bit challenging because I'm not used to drawing myself. Oh, there's my Dairy Queen, my weekend treat kind of signal that my week of mumming is done. And I took a little bit of a break and I ended up watching Drag Race and then continued on with my art piece. I've only done this a couple of times when I was younger in more of an anime character fashion, but to be honest, did even really look like me. Um, but I've managed to get something that I liked. I used kind of an old default outfit of jean jacket, a top, leggings, and white shoes, usually Converse. And I depicted myself with blonde hair. Right now, I currently am a brunette, which is more towards my natural color, but for 15 years, I was a blonde. I got lowlights, highlights. So when I picture myself blonde. So I put that into my starter pack and off I went. But as you see here, I've sketched out a few accessories that I feel relate to me. The first one that you've seen here is a sketch of my dog, Charlie. I've had her since I was 24. She's a one-eyed Shih Tzu and my very first little fur child. Due to a situation that happened, Charlie unfortunately did lose her eye, but because she was young enough, she was only 4 months old, she's adapted enough that you don't really notice. And because I have a little bit of like a side bang on her, no one can really tell that she's missing that eye until I actually tell them and they go, oh my God, I didn't even know. She's fantastic. She puts up with my toddler really well. And I say she's my unofficial emotional support pet because I don't know where I'd be without her. Compared to drawing myself, I do find that drawing my dog, which I've doodled in a little bit of a cartoonish way for many years, was easier. And as you can see, I did a couple of different ones and they all kind of look the same because I've practiced so much that there's an overall sense to it. And when I'm coloring or drawing with my daughter, I can whip this little sketch of my dog out, and she's the happiest little thing, and she goes, cha, cha, pa, pa, and she loves it. Makes her laugh. Charlie makes her laugh. It's all great. The next thing that I did is I drew a couple of Coke products, a vintage Coke bottle and a can. And yeah, Coca-Cola is my vice. Enough said on that one. I also drew a crochet hook because in 2021, amidst, the whole Rona situation, I decided that I wanted to crochet, and that was it. I've been crocheting my little heart out ever since, and I actually crochet the most when I'm watching TV. But I actually share this hobby with my Nona. It's allowed us to like connect on something different than just being grandmother and granddaughter. And she actually is so proud of it. She boasts to her friends all the time about her granddaughter crochets and creates all these great things. So I highly recommend that you get yourself a Nona because it's great for your confidence when it comes to your hobbies. I also drew a Nintendo Switch because the Switch slash Nintendo is probably my favorite console. I've had every Game Boy that was ever released, and then I've had every system since the GameCube. However, I did play like the Super Nintendo and the N64. I just didn't own one. I also future proof this a little bit by adding a 2 next to the logo because your girl somehow managed to secure a pre order for the Switch 2. Don't know how it happened, but it did, and I'm super excited. I also added a mug because I love mugs. I've been trying to declutter my house, but I have a hard time getting rid of some of my mugs. I've got attachments to them, and my husband says that I need to get rid of them because I don't use them all, but it's really hard because they're mugs, and when I have tons of people over, I can give them a mug. They never go to waste. But the one that I depicted here is actually my favorite mug, and I got it at the Carp Farmers Market last year. And there's something about the shape, the size, it's just perfect. I love using it in the morning on those early toddler wake ups. And lastly, I loosely painted two of my favorite book series, Stormlight Archives by Brandon Sanderson and The Red Rising Saga by Pierce Brown. Fun fact, I've actually met Pierce Brown in person 3 times at the release events for his books Morningstar, Iron Gold, and Dark Age. I also managed to find the Japanese version of Red Rising and Golden Sun when I was in Japan in 2018, 2019, and those are signed as well. I brought them to the last book signing, and he very kindly signed them and was impressed that I had them. But if you haven't checked out either of these series and you're into high fantasy and sci fi, I really recommend you check them out. I was a little obsessed with Red Rising. It's all I talked about, it's all I recommended. That simmered down a little bit, but I am super excited about the final book coming out, Red God. And from what Pierce Brown has said, it's coming out in 2026. So I hope that happens, and I would like it to be earlier, but I hope it's not later. Now, as I said, my name is Allyssa and I'm in my mid 30s. 90s babies unite. Golden generation. Anyways, I'm from Ottawa, Ontario, but I was born and raised in Vancouver, British Columbia, and I moved out here to Ottawa in 2013 to attend university. After racking up student debt, I realized I wasn't enjoying school, and I didn't know if I was studying something that I actually wanted to pursue for a career. I had gone through the event with Charlie, and I just kind of settled into myself and realized that, you know what, don't really want to do this. Let's stop going to school and getting into more debt. And off I went into the work field and started working. I was an optometric assistant. And then I finally started working as an administrator and eventually met my husband. And here we are, years later, very happily married to him. And we have a little daughter who is the best thing in the world. She makes me smile and laugh all the time. My art journey started when I was young. I was always that creative kid who liked to color, and I remember coloring with my Nona, and she would laugh about not being able to color very well inside the lines. And I was always the one telling her, Nona, you're coloring out of the lines, stop it. And I would be trying to color inside the lines as best as possible because, that's goals as a kid. But I really started drawing when I was in grade 8 or 9. I met some friends who happened to also really be into anime, and we bonded, and then we just had fun with it by creating our own self insert characters. I was into writing out role play stuff on Gaia Online. If you know, you know. And then we started pairing them up with every character because why not? It was fun, and I really enjoyed that part of my high school time. I actually have a lot of my old drawings, and as I said, I do want to do a sketchbook tour and flip through everything because I remember being so proud of some of the pieces, but when I look back now, I have seen how much I've improved. I doodled, I sketched, I drew all through high school, but ended up somehow, some way, taking a 10-ish year break because I fell out of love with art and just stopped completely. There was a time where I doodled here or there, but I never really drew. I didn't draw. I didn't put effort into trying new things and whatnot. So that break, I, I wish I had continued on. But in 2022 or late 2021, I somehow stumbled upon art YouTube, specifically drawing with waffles, and I really hope she is doing very well considering everything she's gone through, and I miss her videos. But I was in a place where I had started to feel very confident in myself. I was dating my husband at the time, boyfriend. Um, and after going through a hard breakup that kind of really killed some self confidence, he had helped to heal that little part. And I was able to just be me. I could enjoy being the nerdy girl. I could enjoy drawing and playing video games and watching anime again. And so off I went. Something clicked and I fell in love with art again. I then took another year and a half from January 2023 to January 2024. I was pregnant and my hands were swelling badly. I couldn't even hold a pen long enough to really sign documents. I have really bad carpal tunnel, and my doctor says it's from years of administration work and then carrying around a heavy toddler. My hands said no drawing, so I had to stop. Then once I kind of got out of that postpartum phase, my daughter started sleeping better, and I found myself with a lot more time on my hands. I picked up my pencil again, and off I went. And looking back at my sketchbooks, I'm impressed with myself from the improvement in my relaunch into art again at the end of 2021, 2022, and the second launch or second relaunch I had in 2024. And even since then, I can say in the last 4 months, because I've put a lot of effort into trying to study the fundamentals, I've already seen a big improvement in what I can do and how I understand anatomy and stylization and all that kind of stuff. I do wish that I had managed to keep up with art and that I had done all this fundamental studying when I was younger so that I had a better basis to start off from. But something in being a bit older, I'm able to take what I'm learning and apply it to my art. And I don't know if I could do that when I was younger because I just free sketched pictures, no guidelines, no nothing. So the anatomy is very off. But there is an authenticity to them because at that time I was in love with art. I did traditional sketches and then I also did some digital art. And I have some of those saved thanks to my deviant art that is long archived. But I have some of those, and those will be included in the sketchbook tour. As I already mentioned, I do also enjoy reading, playing video games, and crocheting. I used to work at Indigo chapters here in Canada, so I got a really good discount on books, which means I bought a lot of books and my bank account was not happy. Reading and buying books are two separate hobbies. I used to have, I want to say, about 600 books, but after our last move, I've downsized them because I was tired of lugging like 30, 35 boxes of books up and down the stairs from place to place. And I've downsized through selling, gifting, and donating the books that I no longer wanted or the ones I had read and didn't like. That being said, I do miss my large library, but I am still happy with what I have. It looks great here in my office as I look at them right now, and it's just gorgeous. If you hadn't surmised, I am big into fantasy and sci fi, so I read a lot of the popular series like all of Brandon Sanderson, the Fourth Wing I've read, the Bone Season Saga. I want to read the Liza Locke Lamora series, and I think yeah, those are some of the big ones that I have here on my shelves. But if you tell me a title, I probably have heard of it and or read it. I don't read as much now, but thanks to my Kobo and audiobooks, I do read more than I have in the past few years, but it's not as much as when I was at my prime, when I was working at Chapters. Other than art videos, I am hoping to upload or maybe even stream some gaming content. I'm more hesitant about this one than posting videos, but we'll see how things go. I might stream. I did get that Switch 2 pre-order, which is coming in June with Mario Kart World, so you never know. It might happen. Maybe I can throw in some crochet vlogs. I don't crochet a ton because I am hyper focused on art. So all I want to do once that toddler has gone to bed is sit at my desk and sketch or play with my watercolors. So I don't crochet as much because I don't watch as much TV, but maybe I can throw in a couple of crochet vlogs and show you what I've created. But that might be a yearly thing because I'm so slow at it. Now, let's circle back to the art process going on. Once I had my sketches completed, I snapped a picture of the pages and finessed them in Procreate. Then I completed the layout in Photoshop because their tools are just a little bit better for that kind of thing. I printed it off and used my light pad that you saw to transfer the sketch onto watercolor paper. In hindsight, I feel like I should have done this tag differently, maybe digitally or with my alcohol markers, because it kind of became more than I anticipated. I had a vision for this piece, but it quickly spiraled into something more because I decided to render it with watercolors. So as you can see here, I have my watercolor palettes, more of my palette collection. I filled all these pans with tubed watercolor paints and I use the Daniel Smith watercolors, and I've curated some single pigments and mixes because yes, I am lazy, so sometimes I want to just have ready-made colors there to go. But I do have most of those primaries and mixing colors in my collection. So I have the colors split into two palettes. One has the reds, yellows, oranges, and some of the greens, and then the other one has the rest of the greens, the blues, the purples, and then the neutral uh, brown shades and the blacks, and then some shimmer shades that I have. So like a gold, a silver, and then like a copper color. So I kind of curated this myself in kind of colors that spoke to me, and I'm pretty set, and I figured that if this works for me, I can pass on to my daughter if she's ever interested in watercolors, and she'll get to play with some of the really fun, more professional stuff right off the bat. The last year or so, I've been slowly learning how to paint with watercolors, and I love the style of Chris Hong, I'm a Wonder, Emily Hughes, um, Jess Carp, and other watercolor illustrators on YouTube. So, with practicing watercolors and filming my first YouTube video might not have been the best idea, but I powered through and you're watching the fruits of my labor. I'm doing what I can to practice watercolor techniques, but if you have any tips or advice for when it comes to utilizing watercolors in a more illustrative way, I'd love to hear it. Because so many tutorials focus on landscapes or botanicals or loose florals, that kind of thing. But I want to know how to layer watercolors to make an impressive portrait or finesse the illustration, and just use the watercolors to create that crispness, but yet have the looseness that they can provide. I'm a long ways off from that, but hopefully one day I'll be able to render a portrait and not feel like I'm floundering around too badly. Once I was done the watercolor process of laying down the local colors, I did try to add a bit of finesse to it by adding some shadows, and I found that I definitely overworked the paper. I've used some Canson watercolor paper, non-cotton, and let me tell you, it does not compare to Arshes. The only reason I'm not using Arshes is because I couldn't find my pad nor the spare piece that I had floating around, or at least I thought I had floating around. But I can completely tell the difference, and I don't think I will use the watercolor paper from Canson again, maybe for gouache or an acrylic gouache, but not watercolor because I destroyed it. But you'll see with the little action figure that I over rendered the face a little bit. I went a little too dark, and the left side with the ear just is too dark, too gray, muddled. It didn't turn out very well. But because I overworked the paper, it left a bit of fuzzies behind. So you'll see that I use a dry, fluffy brush to kind of sweep those fuzzies away because I have a tendency to use my hand to kind of brush things away, but that smears the colors. And I find when I lay pencil crayons down especially that you'll see a little bit of color transfer from me brushing it away. So I tried to be careful and utilize that fluffy brush to get it to go away. And I did a pretty good job. Looking at it now, don't really see anything, so success. Once I finished with the watercolors, I pull out my handy dandy colored pencils or, pencil crayons as we call them here in Canada, and I'm probably just going to keep saying pencil crayons because it's easier. It's what's in my lexicon. Anyways, you'll see on screen my pencil crayons. I have this handy little rotating pencil case or pencil cup thing. And so I've spin it. It's really unorganized right now because I've done a few pieces and I've had to rush to put things away because my toddler comes barreling in and tries to steal everything. You see that I use the pencil crayons to clean up the images because I haven't quite gotten to that watercolor level where I can render just with watercolors. And as I said, it's something that I'm working towards and hopefully one day I get there. But you see that I'm using a brown colored pencil and I've realized that I prefer the soft lines of pencil crayons as liners rather than fine liners. I find that fine liners tend to be a bit out of place when it comes to watercolors, especially because I think they're a little too bold, too neat, and contrast too much with the texture and flowiness that watercolors provide. So, no fine liners for me. I did use a white Posca to add some details, such as light reflection spots in the eyes, and then I used a pink one to write out my channel name at the top. I know I said this already, but I wish I had gone a different route with this piece, but I do truly love it. I tried to keep the overall feeling a little loose to match the watercolors, and I think I achieved that. I didn't take it too seriously, but it looks complete. I hope you enjoyed my first video and that the sound of my voice isn't too much like nails on a chalkboard for you because, in my opinion, when I listen to my voice back, it is a little bit, but there's not much I can do about that. I'm aiming to get more videos out and to see where this new hobby I'm chasing takes me. You see what I did there? Eh? Eh? Okay, yeah, I'll let myself out. But I have some ideas planned that I want to film and get up for you. But if you have any words of advice or video suggestions, leave me a comment because I'd love to hear them. Otherwise, I hope you have a fantastic day or night wherever you may be, and that you like and subscribe to join me on this journey as I grow as an artist and am able to reach that watercolor process of rendering a portrait or illustration with just watercolors. I hope I can suppress my introverted tendencies for you all and throw caution to the wind and grow my channel. I hope to see you soon. Thank you all. Bye.